Okay, people, Facebook and YouTube. I've been wanting to do this video for so long, but and I've actually shot a couple versions of it, but each time I do it, I kind of I don't want to say chicken out, but I kind of get hesitant because, you know, my channel, most people know my channel for a couple things. They know this to be a plant channel, you know, dealing with my horticultural efforts with plants. They know it to be a channel about my aquatic hobby, my fish tanks. They know it to be a channel about travel. I document my journey as a professional truck driver, formerly a professional bus driver of 15 years. But if you go back to my very first video, which I called kind of like an introduction to my channel, I always said that here and there I'll do little discussions about my personal opinion on global matters. So today I'm going to do a video, and I'm going to try to I don't want to say use coded language, but I'm going to try to be very respectful, because I kind of want to talk about my opinion. Hold on, I probably have to edit this. I got to step on my brakes. It's the only way to keep the truck from cutting off in certain temperatures. So I'm gonna have to get up probably every 5 minutes. But anyways, I want to do my take on the state of race relations in America. But before I do that, real quick, I want to give a background of myself, because sometimes in order to understand where a person is coming from, or why they say what they say, you need to know who they are first. Okay, so obviously I'm a Black American, obviously. Well, I shouldn't say that, because there's a lot of people that could possibly be Black but not be American, but we'll get to that in this video. But long story short, you know, I was born in Ohio, raised in a two-parent house. My parents were working, I guess you could say working middle class, because my mom was a home health care aide. My dad was a factory employee pretty much my whole entire life. GE. My mom was just nursing homes, and she, you know, she was an activities director. She later came to run an actual agency. You know, so I come from a family of hard workers. My family traces way back in America. I can get not too many generations back. I can get my family into the 1800s, if not the bottom of the 1700s. So my family's been here hundreds of years. I could possibly be more American than, you know, some people who feel the country only belongs to them, okay? I might be more American than some of them are. But anyways, you know, I've lived a good life. I was raised in a small Ohio college town. I'm not gonna really identify it, because you got weirdos on YouTube, but you know, my hometown basically, when college was not in session, probably had a population under 10,000. Out of that 10,000, 1,000 may have been Black. May have been. But you know, believe it or not, growing up, my personal opinion, it did not affect my life. People treated me well. I was never called out of my name, ever. I don't recall a dangerous situation with the police in my life. You know, I'm kind of boring. You know, back then I was a nerd. I was a church boy. You know, I went to school, came home. Went to church, came home. And then even now, as an adult, you know, I'm 45 years old. I go to work, I come home. I'm not tied up with too much drama. I don't deal with drugs. You know, I don't do the whole gang thing. I'm an independent person, so I've never really had a problem as a Black man in America myself. Now, I know anything can happen to anybody. So anything is possible. So I'm not going to say because I lived a certain way that's how everyone else does. But, you know, I've never had a victim mentality, basically. I don't feel because I'm you know, anytime I apply for a job in my life, I got it. When I applied for my car, which so far, I'm not bragging, but all of my cars have been Factory fresh. Every loan I applied for, guess what? I got it. College educated. Lived in gated communities. I travel. I've not had any problems. So I'm not one of those black people that feel everything is the so-called white man's fault. I don't have that mindset because, you know, I had parents that taught me that if you work for what you want, 9 times out of 10, you'll get it. And so far, I've been fortunate enough where, in my case, I've lived a pretty good life so far. Okay, now get into the state of race relations in America. That was just me kind of giving a talk about myself. I kind of want to get with this whole immigration thing and kind of talk about that and how I feel things may have gotten how they have gotten. Okay, so, and I'm trying to be respectful because I don't believe in kicking people when they're down, and the truth of the matter is a lot of immigrants, especially immigrants of color, that's going to include your Africans, of course, your Caribbeans, and whether they want to admit it or not, your precious Latino people. And I understand some of them are Spanish and European, but a lot of them are Spanish mixed with Indian. And unfortunately, just due to the way the slave trade ran, a lot of them have black in them, their damn self. Because, you know, the transatlantic slave trade ran for about 400 years, and about 12 million people were transported during those 400 years. What a lot of people don't know, who just assume, because they want to say, oh, well, black Americans, go back to Africa, and people just run with it. But the truth of the matter is almost 50%, if not more, went directly to South America, especially, particularly Brazil, but then probably, you know, Guyana, Suriname, those immediate areas. And then the next concentration, maybe 20%, maybe 15, 20, my numbers could be slightly off, went to the Caribbean. That's your Jamaicas, it's your Haiti, it's even Cuba, the Bahamas, any of those places, they went there. You would think the next wave went to America. Nope. The next wave shot over to Europe, Portugal, and then Spain is particularly, and then maybe a little bit of Britain, and then the remaining 3 to 5% came to the what's now known as the United States. So if you had 12 million, 10% of that would be 1.2 million. But I just told you only 3 to 5% came to America. So that's only 500,000 people over the course of the whole transatlantic slave trade. So it was really not as many blacks, or so-called Africans, I should say. It wasn't as many Africans transported to America as they would have you to believe. Because the long story short, I basically do not believe that every black American is necessarily 100% African. You know, because even in my own family, and I don't want to be too long-winded with this, but even in my own family, and for so long, you would hear black people say it, and everyone's like, oh, no, you're from Africa, stop denying your roots. But the whole thing is, we really were not even called African Americans until, and it's crazy because, you know, Jesse Jackson just passed away this week during Black History Month. He's the one that led the push to have us reclassified as so-called African Americans, okay? Because prior to that, prior to that, we were known as the American Negro. We were known as simply colored people. Then it went to freedmen for some people that applied to. Then it went to Afro-American in the kind of the 70s. And then black kind of started coming in. the 80s, when I was born, my textbook said black. It did not say African American in no shape, form, or fashion. Then by 88, 89, it was when they started to push for that, but it still wasn't really on the books. I don't remember seeing it in school till like 91, 92. And then in between that short phase, they just simply called us minorities. Then it turned into African Americans. And then currently, there's some people that the push of the whole ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, or FBA, Foundational Black Americans. And that just means people who could trace their lineage simply to the census, which is, what was that, 1870? And in my family, I'm able to do that. You know, my dad's grandmother, who I didn't know her, you know, she was born in 1890, passed away in 1990. So I had her for the first 10 years of my life, meaning her parents were those previous 2 generations before, which gets my family to being here for that first census. People in my family were here. But the other thing that I want to get to, many Black Americans have mixture on both sides of my family, and they come at the same place almost. My mom's his father was a mulatto. And then on my dad's side, his father's mother was a mulatto, which basically means biracial, black and white at the time. And then that previous generation prior to that was a white man who impregnated, obviously, one of my ancestors. And it's not always through the whole master slave thing, which everyone always wants to assume, because the generation that I'm talking about was a generation outside of slavery. So you can't just say, oh, well, the master, of course, he was such and such. Y'all don't want to face it. A lot of them white men had black women as the side piece, okay? And then they had children who later got with maybe a black man or a black woman. And then the next generation, which would have been my mom, and she got with a black man who also had European mixture. And then to create me, you know, so on my family, we do have South African and Congo. So I'm not saying for me that there's no African. There's South African, there is Congo. They were immigrants, though. That's the crazy thing. That's what I'm saying. Everyone was not. I be careful how I word this, because on the other side, there is a slave descendant that we can find. So I am a descendant of a slave on one side, but then there's also a voluntary immigrant from overseas, and then it's my mom's side. Okay, so, but the point of what I'm trying to say to you is, for some reason, everyone wants to assign Black America their identity instead of allowing us to know what our identity is. Okay, like on my grandma's side, not her mom, not her mother, I believe her mom's mom literally came off of the Cherokee Indian Reservation. My grandma's from Hosky, North Carolina. Not saying that that's where the reservation was, but that's where she was born at. So that means a few generations up was where the Cherokee comes in at. And now people have to remember, I believe, I want to say, what is that, 1914, 1915, somewhere in that area, there was this white gentleman who controlled the American he controlled the census for the state of Virginia. And basically he's a guy that basically responsible for what's known as the one drop rule, which says if there's just one drop of black in you, or at that time American Negro, colored people actually, you have one drop in you, you're colored. So this man took it upon himself to overnight say tens of thousands of people of color who were known as natives. Overnight, he said, you're no longer Indian, you're just simply colored. And that happened to a lot of people's ancestors. And then they just want to just throw it in. Well, you know, y'all are just African American. And it's like, actually, we do. Some of us have that in us. So we're not going to say that there's no African in us at all. But you're not going to tell me just a race, because I've seen pictures, you know, her hair literally, she sat on it. And not to say that that African could not have hair like that, but in her case, she just wasn't African. You can't make someone be something that they're not. You know, she was flat out Cherokee Indian, and period. That's it. You know, so like I said, I'm not saying I'm Indian, but I'm saying that there is Black Americans wear mutts, okay? So I don't know why people are just have it. Actually, I do know why, but it's like everyone will just want to assign our identity. And the reason why, because when you can control a person's identity, you can control how you define them. And before you know it, you can have people thinking a certain way about themselves when it's the total opposite. And I hate to say it, but I believe with Black America, that has happened to us, because everyone wants to put their input. You guys are this, you guys are that, you guys aren't this, you aren't that. And a lot of times it's the total opposite. I just told you, because you'll hear people say, well, you know, y'all are raised without your fathers. I wasn't. I was raised in a 2-parent house. I had a dad that, because he did pass away, but I had a father that left all of his children with an inheritance. Not bragging, but he just did. You know, even the career I'm in right now, trucking, when I went to my dad about truck school, telling him I, you know, because I was in the take a loan to go. He's like, why would you do that when you could just pay me back? I walked away with, I can say it now, I walked away with a $10,000 check. You know, and it's like, you have all these people talk about we not this, we not that. We don't all have the same story, okay? Hate to break it to you. You know, there's Black people that work very hard, Black Americans that work very hard for everything that they have. And unfortunately for y'all haters out there, I'm one of them. You know, I was raised with parents that cared about me. But if you let some people tell it, you would almost think that we don't have that. But that's too bad for them for believing it, because I know better. A lot of us know better. Now, get into the whole immigrant thing. So much I could say, so much I want to say. You know, with the ICE immigration enforcement, you know, there's so many sides to that. The human side, and that's the thing about Black Americans, we actually care about people. The human side it's horrible. You know, I heard of a case where this guy, he was obviously he was a Latino man. Forgot what exact country he's from, but he was the sole caregiver of his son. And his son had a long-standing illness. It was not, I don't think it was cancer, it was something different, but it was a special condition that required basically 24-hour care. Yes, you can have doctors who do it, but the father was always present for his son's caregiving. So when he was basically detained by ICE, of course, I want to say within 3 days, his son had went from basically was surviving. By that 3rd day, he was like deathly ill, probably because he was not being taken care of properly. And just the grief of losing his father probably threw him into some kind of shock where he wasn't responding to the care that he was being given. Because you know how it is, your parents are going to be more personal than the doctor will. So long story short, this young guy died. And this is not me telling a story to make no one feel bad. It's just a reality that happened in this country. So no matter what happens with his father moving forward, the damage is already done. So when I look at it from that viewpoint, it's terrible, it's horrible. But then there's the other side of it. I'm not scared to say it. Some of y'all Latino people out here, you put yourself in that position. Because if, and I don't even like to talk about how people vote, but that is part of it. Because if a platform is running off of the whole ideology of they're going to so-called make a country great, and part of that, we're going to get these people out of here that shouldn't be here. If you know your grandma, if you know your cousins, if you know your little brothers came on a trip and they just never left, you know for a fact they crossed the border and nobody ever caught them, then why would you vote for the party that is saying we're going to get to the bottom of that and get these people out of here? Why would you vote for that? Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I feel like no matter who would have got in, eventually it would have came down to that sooner or later. But my thing is, you kind of didn't help yourself. You made something that could have been 10 years off, you brought it to your front door. But outside of that, it's like, I live in Florida. I get to see how some of you all conduct yourself, especially in regards to other minority groups, which I'm a part of one of them, a Black American. Many of you come here with this elitist attitude because you believe the whole talking points that they sell to you, that Black people are nobodies, that we're criminals, that we're uneducated, that we come from broken homes, even though I just gave you an example because I didn't come from one. So you hear all of this, and then you come here with your nose high up in the air. You know, you guys are feeling yourself like you're so much more than somebody else, and you believe that you're not a minority your damn self. But you guys didn't realize, you know, it's unfortunate, but you didn't realize that the system is playing the long game. Have you guys ever played like checkers? That's just a basic game, childhood game, okay? You know how they say chess, not checkers, but we can just go basic with checkers. When you're playing Flying Kings, sometimes the other side might jump one of your men, and maybe even two of them, and they think they got you. But you're seeing it from your side like, oh my goodness, they jumped one more. I can clear this whole board out, because we would play Flying Kings when I was a little kid. That's where you can go forward and backward and you can crisscross. So sometimes before you get to the final result, you have to let the other person feel like they're doing something. And a lot of immigrants of color, especially some of the Latino ones, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. I said what I meant, and I mean what I say. Some of y'all came here, you forgot the game that is being played. You forgot that even Black Americans, we had to fight for our basic rights. Okay? If they were given to us from the beginning, there would be no need for a 14th Amendment. There would have been no need for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and then maybe something else in 68. And I was born in 1980. I was born 12 years out of the end of the Civil Rights Movement. So if this was always a fair and equal country, why would there need to be amendments made to fix past injustices? Okay, so if you come here as a minority group, your damn self, why would you align with the system of oppression? The person that would hate one person for their skin color, what makes you think they would not hate you for your skin color? But I forgot, some of you guys got light skin, even some of them got blue eyes. But guess what? I'm about to surprise you. My grandma had blue eyes. She sure did. My dad was light skinned. My sister has light skin with blonde hair. Do you think that makes her white? So how did what a Latino person think because they got light colored skin that they're white. I've never understood that. But, you know, for some reason, you know, that some of them must feel that way. But 2025 kind of was an eye-opener. And there's more to come. We're in 2026 now. There's so much more to come. I'll tell people, fix your heart, because I'm not, if you notice, I said one thing about the voting thing, but it's bigger than that. It's about being a good, a decent human, because I'll give you an example. Just to show you how some people feel more than what they are. I went to Miami as a truck driver. I'd go there all the time. And when I was checking in at the gate, it was a Cuban guy. Now, from what I've understood, because you always hear the stuff about, well, we did it the right way, and y'all had to too. Well, come to find out, there was an act kind of passed where they're kind of fast-tracked to citizenship, because being that they're escaping a dictatorship and it was so close to America, and just so many, it was just such a deluge, they finally just said, if you make it here, you keep yourself clean for a year, you're not too dependent on us, we'll move you up. So believe it or not, they actually were fast-tracked to citizenship. And that might explain why some of them put their nose up. Anyways, I was in Miami, and I turned my shipping papers in. He signed it, and he told me, okay, you're going to take this paper, and then you're going to go to that funny Colombian man across the street. Give him the paperwork, and he'll tell you what door to go to. And I said, and I was not trying to be funny. I'm not lying. I was like, well, aren't you Colombian? And he told me, he said, those are fighting words. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you just called me a third-class citizen. So take the black and white out of it. You got Latinos that hate other Latinos, that think they're better than other Latinos. And I hate saying it, but especially Cubans for some reason, you know, they be feeling themselves. Well, if you go on TikTok and YouTube, some of the main ones crying, you know, they say the same thing that makes you laugh is the same thing that will make you cry, because you guys felt so special. You're so much more than everybody else. Until it started happening to you and people that you love and care about. So I'll just say, anybody, do better. And I didn't even get started on the Africans yet. Oh God, that would be like a 10-hour video. People, listen to me. There's a lot that's going to happen in this world in these next couple years. And it's bigger than black and white. It's bigger than Cubans. It's bigger than Venezuelans. It's bigger than whatever you want to say. Because I wouldn't be surprised some kind of way there's not some kind of major BLOOD shed on American soil within the next 2 to 3 years. It might come from the government. It might come from a government overseas. It might be something undercover here. It might be homegrown. There's going to be some things happening here. And I don't fear none of it, because I'm a God-fearing person. I'm not religious, but I'm a God-fearing person. And I believe if you live your life a certain way, that God will cover you. But I'll tell you something. Hatred does not win. Because even me, myself, there's been times where God had to put me on notice, like, you do realize I'm not going to cover you if you keep going the way that you're going, talking about me. Now, if I could say that about myself, I'm telling it to all of you guys out there. Fix your hearts. Because at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff is economic. It's not even really racial. They just use that as a divide and conquer tactic, which works beautifully in America. And that's where you're seeing a lot of white people. You're seeing these videos. Well, I think now we're starting to see what people have been saying. because some of them are starting to struggle. Some of them are working 3 and 4 jobs and barely paying their bills. And they're starting to realize, oh my goodness, we were so busy hating people because of their skin, we didn't realize this whole system was messing us up. And you see what's going on with some of these farmers. People are losing farms that have been in their family since the 1800s. Do better. See, y'all were so busy thinking black and white, you didn't see that something was coming up about to get you in the butt. That's where that saying comes from. When you dig a hole for somebody else, dig one for yourself. And that's why I feel like this current administration, I hate to say this, we needed it to happen, because it's a wake-up call for everybody. I mean, this red is not, you see, it's not, the way I'm talking, some people might think it's a certain kind of hat because it's red. It's not that kind of hat. But fix your hearts, you guys, because I'm gonna tell you something. The things that are really gonna come, it's gonna be bigger than black and white. It's gonna be bigger than Cuban versus Mexican versus Puerto Rican, and Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl, and this meant this and that meant that. It's stuff that's way bigger than this. And if your heart is not right, you're not gonna make it.